In this video, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks about using Google Forms. So I'm here in my Google Drive. If I'm going to start a new form, I'm going to click on New, go down to More, and select Google Forms. You can see there's an arrow here. If I click on that, I have an option to do a blank form or a form from template. If I was to select a form from template, you can see here's an option, so the options in my template gallery. So you can see they're broken up by category. I can do exit tickets, blank quizzes, course evaluations, so on and so forth. These give you a preset format, preset questions. So for example, if I click this one here that says exit ticket, you can see it has some questions already in here. I could go in and change my questions or add questions if needed. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make one that is a blank form just by clicking Google Forms here. Let's say I'm going to do this one, I'm going to just have it be meeting feedback. After I title it here, I usually click up here to give it the title of the actual file too. Otherwise it's called untitled, makes it hard to find. Form description would be more details, could be directions about how to fill out the form. Hint on when you title things. If you can be more specific, like if you could add the date to it or the group that's taking it, it makes it easier if you're going to be doing multiple forms over time. That, or make sure you move it or add it to a folder just to help keep track of stuff. Now you can see here the question, the first one I have, the option is multiple choice. If I click, you have all these different options, short answer, paragraph. Check boxes are good if you have multiple possible choices you want to select, but you don't want people to write in the choices. These options here, when you look at the results, will give you correlated results, charts, versus the short answer and the paragraphs where the answers may vary, so you kind of have to sift through all the individual results. You can see there's other options at the bottom in terms of dates, multiple choice grid, so on and so forth. Most people stick with the top 5, but that's totally optional. So for most of your questions, if you put in the question title, whatever option people will have, you can take these and you can rearrange them if they're not in the order you like. If I want a new question, I click here on the plus. I will make this one a drop down just for something different. And fill my information. Some other things you can do, if you hit the X's, it will get rid of options. You have the sidebar to make a question required or not. You can delete a question. You can duplicate a question, which is good if you have just slight variances for your questions. And you have these dots here where you can do things like add a description just for this one question, like if you need more information for the person who's filling it out. You can shuffle the option order, which is good if you're doing a quiz, but you're worried about people sitting next to each other cheating. On the side here, you also have some other options besides your questions. So you can add a title and a description. So you can kind of break it into sections. So like at the top I have a title here. You could do different titles for different parts. You can add in an image. For the images, you can upload them. You can take a snapshot, which would use your camera if you allow it, by URL. So if you find a picture online, you could put the full URL in. It links with your Google Drive, or you could search. So if I just do a search for quiz, I could pick that and add it in, for example. This here allows you to add formal sections. Each section would then be a separate page. So if I was to add a question there, and I'll make this one a checkbox. It would then add those to another page when they take the quiz. You can see here next to your questions there's also an option where you can add an image for an individual question. So if, for example, they need a visual to answer for it. If you want to preview your survey at any point, you can click up here on the eyeball. It'll show you how it looks. So I can see here how I have the drop downs, the pictures, and a next to go to my second page. Once you have completed your survey, you can click on send. You can send it via email, link. A lot of times I'll shorten the link and put that like on a web page or in another document. Or you could embed it into a website. You can see here if it's within an institutional account, you can have it automatically collect respondents' usernames, or which would be their email addresses, which is a good way to track responses if you don't want anonymous responses. You could also add in fields that would be text fields that would have name. I recommend if you do that, you do separate boxes for first name. I'll duplicate that, and last name. Otherwise, if you try to put the answers into a spreadsheet and sort them, you don't do two separate lines. Sometimes people put their last name, comma, first name, or it'll be all first name, last name, and you're trying to really look for people by last name. It's hard to sort. So doing it in two separate boxes would take care of that. When you're finished, the responses will be shown here. You can download the responses if you want to work with them offline, like in a spreadsheet, or you can link them to a spreadsheet into Google. If you create a spreadsheet through Google, you can share the spreadsheet separately. So if you want someone to not be able to have access to edit the survey but look at the responses, you can share just the responses. The only other things I want to point out is if I go up to the gear, since this is an institutional account, right now it's restricted to only people within this institution being able to answer. So if this is for, like, let's say parents or someone else that may not have a Google account or a Google account for this organization, you want to uncheck that. You can have it collect email addresses, which is a good way to get information about who fills out your survey for people who are signing in with accounts, if you don't want those separate responses. There are other parts, like for example, there's add-ons. I have one here listed, so when people start filling in responses, once it hits a certain number, it gets rid of them. So I use that for like course signups. So if I only have 10 people can sign up, once it hits the 10, it will close it so you can't answer that question. Next to that is your palette, so you could change your colors. And them's the basics for doing a Google survey in a Google form.